Welcome, hunters. So about an hour from here, in a public park, there's a very large old oak tree that probably thousands of people either hike by or ride their bicycle by, that's supposedly very haunted and cursed because of its alleged connection with the 1972 serial killer. Let me share the details with you in just a sec. Welcome back, hunters. So let me start by thanking all the new subscribers. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the likes. Please, if you get a moment, do all the YouTube stuff. Share, tell your friends. Anything you can do to help the channel is greatly appreciated. And you taking your time out of your busy lives to watch my videos is greatly appreciated. And I thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. Thank you all very much. Secondly, I'm not scripted, so just fair warning that I'm just here with my laptop, my notes, and we're going to be talking about the subject of the old oak tree here in just a moment. And lastly, I just want to make my next several videos about some Florida hauntings that are relatively close by where I live, the Tropical Haunts plans on visiting as soon as the weather improves a little bit. And speaking of the weather, just to the west of where I live, this is what's going on. Yeah, that's correct. There's a tropical storm swirling around in the Gulf, and there for a couple of days we weren't really sure where it was going to go, but now they pretty much tracked this thing going up north, which now I think some of you that watch the channel knows that my boo lives in Florida as well, which is my daughter. We thought it was going to go directly over her house.
Whew, that was close.
But it changed direction, and boo, I'm glad you didn't get hit by Debbie. So thank God for that. But we think now it's going to go to the Panhandle. But this is not going to be the last storm that we have to deal with this year. And even if we don't get actual hurricanes or tropical storms, we still have dreadful weather, high humidity, lightning storms every afternoon. So once the weather clears a little bit, we're going to be visiting some of these places that we're going to go over in the next several videos. All right, guys, without further delay, let's get into the topic of today's video. All right, so the Devil's Tree. Now, the Devil's Tree I'm referring to is in a city called Port St. Lucie, Florida. It's also in a public park. And the name, I've got my notes here. And the name of the park is Oak Hammock Neighborhood Park, which I believe was not the original name of the park, but that's what it's called now. And this tree is on a trail back in probably the heart of the park. They say it's back deep on the trail somewhere, and it's not that easy to find. There are, let me digress. I Google searched this. These are all superficial Google searches. So there's a lot of conflicting information about the serial killer, whether this is actually the right tree that's connected with the serial killer. But the focus of my video today is basically on the tree. I don't want to focus on the serial killer. I want to focus on the tree and basically the lore or the tales that surround it, of its haunting and the curse on it. So, but we can't really do that unless we start at the origin, why it became that way. It's because of its connection with the serial killer. But anyway, I just want to let everybody know this is not a serial killer video. This is about the tree. So I did a Google search, and I've known about this tree for a long time because it's common knowledge. This goes all the way back to the 70s. I've lived here in this area for many years. So I've heard about the tree before, but never really put a lot of thought into going up there. I'm not sure why. Probably busy doing other things when I was younger, raising kids and all that, and it kind of slipped my mind. But now that I'm a little older and I do some paranormal stuff, I really want to go up there and I'm going to check this thing out. But I don't want to do it when it's 115,000 degrees. I'd like to wait till it cools off, probably around the beginning of October. So that being said, I did a Google search. I found out some of the information about it, but instead of going into a long article or going down the rabbit hole with you guys, making this video an hour long, like I did the other one, we're going to go to a really brief article here. I'm going to read it to you, and I'm going to make a couple comments on it. It's probably a paragraph long, but there's some things on here that even when I read the article, I chose this one because it's short, but even when I read the article, I was like, huh? What? So anyway, so I'm going to try to make this kind of as simple as possible, what's going on with this tree. So I'm going to jump in the box here. All right, so the article reads, "The Devil's Tree in South Florida, possibly linked to one of Florida's first serial killers." Now, I think the reason why they word it like this, because over the years, they've come to the conclusion this may not actually be the oak tree that the serial killer used committing his crimes. It could have been another tree in the vicinity, but not this particular tree. So anyway, let's see how this reads, and then I'll make some quick comments on it based upon some of the research I did with Google. All right, so it reads, "In Port St. Lucie along Florida's east coast, there is said to be a place known as the Devil's Tree. The tree is said to be tied to one of Florida's first serial killers, according to CBS 12 in West Palm Beach," which is one of our local news outfits. Gerard John Shaefer first surfaced as a serial killer in 1970s as a former Martin County Sheriff's deputy. Now, his crimes and his activity as a serial killer, I believe, predates when this particular part of his activity was documented and exposed. What I understand is he had a long history. They tied him back to some disappearances of young women that were around him years before this. But this time he was a Martin County Sheriff's deputy, and his preferred method of finding victims was he would drive up and down the road in his squad car and look for young ladies who were hitchhiking. So let's continue. "The Devil Tree has a knot in its trunk about 10 feet off the ground in the shape of a goat's head with horns." I'm going to show you some images. Now, I found one image that shows a knot. It does kind of have the appearance of a goat's head, but I couldn't distinguish where they would say there were horns there. But hopefully when we go there in person, I can record the thing in detail so we can see for ourselves. They also say that they have tried to, there's tales, and that they've tried to remove this tree, tear it down, chop it down, that they couldn't cut it, it was too tough, the machines wouldn't start and all that. Now, I don't know that I subscribe to all those tales, because I think they're not certain that this tree was actually involved with the crimes. It's just, at this point, it's suspect whether or not this was the actual tree. But that being aside, they probably are not going to tear this tree down because it's 100 years old, if not older. So they're not just going to level this tree, I doubt, even though it was used in committing these horrible crimes. Let's continue reading. Author Keith Rommel wrote a book about the Devil's Tree. He's done extensive research on the tree as well as on Schaefer himself, which was the serial killer. Rommel believes the second tree is where Schaefer actually tortured and killed his victims. Now, for those of you, again, this is not about serial killer, but basically his preferred method of committing these crimes was binding his victims to a tree and then torturing them and doing horrible things, and then eventually it would lead to the demise of the victim. Now, there are two girls whom he was not convicted for, who was binded to a tree, but I do not think it was this tree. It was another location. They escaped, and they were handcuffed, and they flagged down another officer, and this is how he eventually got caught. It says, it continues to read, "This was the ideal place to take them because no matter how loud you scream, nobody's coming for you." He's speaking of the isolation of this location, which again, when we visit, we'll document, hopefully we'll record, how far back in the woods this really is. Especially when somebody dressed as a sheriff's deputy was near. He was a sheriff's deputy, so he did despicable things. He did it a lot because people trusted him because he was in uniform, and so these young ladies would think they were safe, and then it would lead to their demise. Schaefer received 2 life sentences in 1973 for the demise of 2 teenage girls, Susan Place and Georgia Jessup, God rest her soul. Upon searching his home, law enforcement recovered jewelry, teeth, and other personal items belonging to women. They believe Schaefer also kidnapped. The detective that was diagnosing his behavior and his activities said that he made Ted Bundy look like a Boy Scout. So this guy was really, really bad. But let's get back to the tree. The tree, again, is supposedly cursed. Now, what I think, based on my research, which again is superficial at Google, I did not do extensive research like this gentleman Rommel, is they think the tree was haunted because the young ladies were buried again in a shallow grave or location near the tree. So I think that is what attributes to the haunting there at the tree. Now, I believe there have been rituals performed like a lot of other locations. We've talked about this before in my other videos. I've showed you guys proof of places I've visited, the Devil's Chair. There are also things in cemeteries that I pointed out. There are trinkets and little talismans that people leave. So I believe that the curse comes due to some of the rituals that have been performed at this location. Now, there's supposedly there's also an abandoned structure out there that I'm not sure was a comfort station for the park, or maybe a ranger station. I don't know. It's not clear. But there's also evidence that people have been over there camping. They leave rubbish over there. And there's also evidence of people doing rituals with campfires and that sort of thing. So the tree also has etchings of satanic symbols on it. So I think that's where the curse comes from. I do not think it was cursed due to the activity of the serial killer. I think this comes later of people going out there and doing horrible things in these locations. So that is basically the story of the Devil's Tree in Port St. Lucie, Florida. So before we jump out of the video, let me come out of the box. So before we conclude the video, I just wanted real quickly to jump into the Reddit post, because I always find it interesting the people that live nearby or have some knowledge of the actual location have to say. So before we finish the video, let's jump in and see what people are saying on Reddit. All right, so here's the Reddit post. And this is a very long segue here, entry. And it reads, there's this place in Port St. Lucie, Florida that's called the Devil's Tree. You can Google it, but essentially it's local lore that girls, nuns, there's different versions after it telephoned its way around. Basically what they're saying is the same thing as I am. There's a lot of conflicting information about whether this is the actual tree, what took place. I'm sure that if you looked at a website or a YouTube channel that does actual police investigations, you can get the accurate description of the crimes, the crime scene and all that. But again, like I said, I'm not doing a video about serial killer. I'm just talking about the haunted location. I'm not going to go into the graphic details of what happened there, but just suffice to say, like I said, the serial killer would bind and basically do horrible things to the girls once he had them subdued. And they also did, they say, satanic rituals being performed at the base of this tree in the woods as well. And then they go into the fables. They tried to cut down the tree. Once word got out, but something awful always happens. They were rained out. Tools stopped working. And again, I don't know that I've subscribed to any of that. I think that they probably just decided not to destroy the tree because it's over 100 years old. Everything was normal up until the actual tree. Then they said it has a particular demonic stench around it, or a stench of death. There's just a lot of information here that I'm not going to repeat because I don't know that it's true. Some of it seems far-fetched, like a a flock of vultures that circle the tree at certain times and the stench that's around it. But hopefully when we visit the tree, when I visit the tree myself, I'll let you know if any of these things are true with the stench and whether or not there's any vultures or what the overall feeling is over there. So let's look at some of the comments real quick. I'm from Port St. Lucie. In middle school and high school, kids would always dare each other to go to the Devil's Tree at night. So growing up, I guess, in Port St. Lucie, this was like a normal household tale. I too live in Port St. Lucie. What actually happened at the Devil's Tree is that a Martin County Sheriff's Deputy, Gerard John Shaefer, picked up girls and young women who he saw hitchhiking. At the time, the area around the tree was pretty remote and mostly uninhabited. He then tied them to the Devil's Tree and did horrible things to them, ultimately leading to their demise and disposing of them near the tree. He actually had 2 girls escape and they turned him in. He got out on bail and he committed a couple more crimes just a few months later, and he finally was arrested and convicted. And then we all know that he met his demise at the hands of another inmate in prison. Says, when I was in high school, a group of friends and I went to the Devil's Tree on June 6, 2006 to check it out and act cool. Nothing crazy happened other than seeing a few people hiding in the woods in robes, probably people waiting to pull a prank or do some weird stuff. We decided to take a few pictures and leave. After we left, the radio in my friend's mom's car kept randomly changing stations, but I think that was her mom messing with us. The weird part is that the next day we were looking through the pictures and we realized none of us had a clear picture of the tree. We went like at 2 a.m. and 2 in the afternoon, on a clear day, and all the photos were taken, old flip phones and Nikon D something had a mist surrounding the tree. So, do I doubt that the tree is probably haunted? No, not if they've done rituals and that sort of thing. So yes, the tree probably has some sort of haunting or some sort of attachment due to the rituals. I do believe that is a high probability. Some of the other stuff, I don't know, could be true, but I don't know. But anyway, that's basically the story of the Devil's Tree in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Trouble Cons will be visiting the tree. We will record it for you. We'll take a look at the knot on the tree. Maybe by then I can find maybe some actual true crime documents about what actually happened. But this comment here is pretty close to what I have read that actually took place there. Again, this was in the 70s. So now the tree, they're not so sure this is the actual tree, and that is in question now. I mean, it really doesn't matter whether it's that tree or another tree. It's horrific, and if these young ladies met their demise there and they were buried anywhere near the trees, it's probably a haunted location, regardless of what tree you're at. All right, haunters, let me get out of the box. All right, haunters, that's it for this video. I just thought that I would bring it to you guys' attention. A lot of people may have forgotten about this particular haunted location that is right up the street from where I live. And I've seen a couple of the YouTubers. I actually think Ghost Adventures has been there. I do know the twins have been there, Twin Paranormal. I do know they have been there. I saw those on YouTube. But again, if you Google this or go to YouTube, look up the Devil's Tree, Florida, you're going to find thousands and thousands of hits. So look at it for yourself. And then hopefully the weather clears up soon and it cools off a little bit and Trouble Cons can go out there and we can do an investigation of our own. All right, haunters, thank you so very much for hanging with me during this video, and take care of each other, look after each other, and have a fantastic day. God bless you all, and I'll see you on the next one.